Sweet. The clock is ticking in the top left-hand corner. All right. So I guess to lay some groundwork to why we're doing this, right? So we had talked a little bit about maybe having other ways to communicate with the members. I think we all sort of agreed that any opportunity we have to sort of fill the white space with things that are going in the gym or just sort of our thoughts to sort of fill that in for the members, it's only going to be good. With this podcast or this episode, we're going to put a 60-minute cap on it, just like we would for like a normal class. And this one's going to be the live anonymous Q&A. So Casey had the key to the box. She came in here and read it earlier while I was showering, and she just gave me a look when I went into the kitchen.
Shout out Casey.
But this sucker's full, man.
All right.
So I'm not really sure what to expect here. Like I told Savannah, maybe if we get through all the questions, I might have a couple questions for you guys, just to get you guys' thoughts and an opportunity to maybe talk to the members about some stuff that maybe you don't normally get a chance to talk about during the normal 60-minute class.
Sure.
Y'all good?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Let's do it.
All right. Bum, bum, bum.
Shout out Casey.
Some of these people have terrible handwriting, by the way. Worse than
Oh,
mine.
sure. Chicken scratch.
Yeah. Okay. First question. How important is sleep, and why do we never talk about it at the gym?
Interesting.
Does anybody want to take that one?
I mean, I could go off on sleep for a while.
Let's go.
Sleep, to me, I feel like sleep is at the bottom of the pyramid as far as things that are most important. Well, oxygen, obviously, oxygen, water is kind of right there with it. But sleep, it's like so much happens during the sleep. So one, it's one of the main times when your body is able to truly repair itself. And I think that it's not even just about, I know that people talk about like getting 8 hours of sleep. Really, you want 9 or 10 hours of sleep, which if you tell people that, they're going to lose their shit. I mean, they're going to be like, what? That's impossible. There's no way. But that essentially, I mean, if you look back and you look at sunrises, sunsets, things like that, and you're trying to get in sync with everything, that is the way that's most natural for the body. But there's also, if you take it deeper, there's more things that go into it with sleep that happens other than just like repairing the body. So one, I didn't realize this. I've obviously been sleep deprived for over 1.5 years. So I got into some thick stuff with sleep because of Flex. And I've seen the changes with my body personally. But one, I didn't know that your body releases natural HGH, which is human growth hormone. It naturally produces that and releases it. And 70%, around 70%, you guys can fact check my numbers, but it's like around 70% is produced while you're sleeping. But the kicker of it is that if you're not getting like real, like the sleep quality to where you're hitting all the different REM cycles, then that's a loss too, because your body's not able to produce the amount of HGH that it needs to in the cycles. So that's another key piece too, is like, okay, so let's say that you are going to bed and you're hitting, gold standard here of like 9 or 10 hours of sleep, but you're not getting quality sleep and you're waking up during the night and you got to go to the bathroom, or you got a crick in your neck, or your body's just not positioned right, or you wake up because your mind is racing or doing things like that. Then that messes up your different sleep cycles. I don't know how many sleep cycles there are. There it is, 75%.
You guys can see that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome.
So then you're not hitting the different cycles. You're not getting that deep sleep. So the other deal that happens too that I thought was really interesting, and this also plays into some of my own personal experiences, is that if you're not getting quality of sleep and getting that deep sleep, then there's a suppression of cortisol levels. And so then that starts to mess with your insulin resistance. And so then you wake up from sleep, you've had this suppression of cortisol, and you wake up from this sleep, and now it's like your most, like when you're in the morning, you have the most insulin resistance. So the thing about insulin resistance that, I mean, I think this it could be a key piece for a lot of people if they're not getting quality of sleep, is the fact that your body. So if you're insulin resistant in the morning, and it doesn't mean you're a diabetic, it doesn't mean anything like that, but if it happens continuously over time, it could lead to becoming pre-diabetic, which I ended up testing positive for pre-diabetic. I'm like right there on the cusp, which they told me it was like obviously a result of my lack of sleep for over a year now. But what happens when your body becomes insulin resistant is it's not able to take that sugar that most people get in the morning from their coffee or donuts or whatever sugary foods that we start the morning with. It's not able to convert that sugar into energy because your pancreas isn't producing the sugar, insulins, and stuff that it needs to properly. So it ends up too much sugar in the blood. So that's like, I could go on for days about sleep, but those are just like a few key components that were super eye-opening for me.
I've got a couple questions for you guys. So it's like, what's more important, the quantity of the sleep? Would you rather have a lot of sleep that maybe is like not optimal, or an optimal, like the best sleep in the world, but it's not very much? And I'm curious, like, you obviously mentioned that for the last year and a half, your sleep's not been good, but like Troy, like how's your sleep? Do you think you're getting like an A+ there, or
Oh no, I wouldn't say an A+. I think Savannah's definitely on the right track. Both of you guys are, as far as the quality over quantity. I just think back just personally. I mean, there are plenty of days where I've gotten 9-10 hours of sleep, and I'll wake up the next day and I'll feel dead. Dead tired. It won't matter how many hours of sleep I get. It depends on obviously how, or within those hours of sleep, which one of them were quality. What was restorative sleep? The REM cycle, like you said, I'm not sure how many cycles there are exactly. But I wouldn't say an A+. I'd say on average, 6 to 8 hours. But the Whoop has changed a lot for me, just being able to track that. I don't track, as many things on here that I probably could, but sleep is one thing that I think they've done right for a long time, is being able to track exactly, the hours of time in bed, how much time I spent in restorative sleep, my REM cycle, respiratory rate. There's tons of different stuff you can see within that. It's been kind of cool to dive into.
Dude, I've been on like a chase to try to figure out the solution to my sleep stuff for years. Yeah. So part of it, I think, is probably learned from my job. And I think I really picked up the habit in Afghanistan where like, imagine being in like a remote region of a foreign country, and you're the person that has to take the call whenever there's maybe troops in contact nearby, troops that are engaged in combat. So I would have to go to sleep with a radio next to my head at like the lowest volume setting. So it would have to be low enough that I could sleep past the radio static, but it still needed to be loud enough that it would wake me up if I needed to. So I think over the course of like my deployment in 2017, I think I conditioned myself to sleep. I can fall asleep like that, but I can also wake up like that. And when my eyes open, dude, I'm ready to go. Like Casey and Kennedy, for example, like they take a little bit of time to wake up. Me and Hope, we're just not that way. Like as soon as we're up, we're up. So there's sometimes like when I coach like a 5:30 class, I get to the gym sometimes at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because there's sometimes throughout the week
that's crazy.
And I'll go to sleep at like 9:30 or 10, but I'm up at like 2 o'clock for no reason. It's not like I just, my eyes open and I'm just like, might as well just get the day started. So I'm trying to figure out how to solve that. And I'm hoping maybe in like retirement that I can get it all sorted out. But
sure. I'm kind of the same way though. I feel like I'm very good at falling asleep. Like I don't think I've ever struggled with just the actual falling asleep aspect. Taking melatonin I've done before, but at this point I feel like I'm good at falling asleep. It's the staying asleep part of it. There's a lot of times when I'll wake up, 10 to 15 times throughout the night and just toss and turn. And that is, I feel like, what affects me in the morning, because I could get 6 hours, I could get 24 hours of sleep, I'm going to probably wake up feeling the exact same. And it's not usually like I'm waking up like you where my eyes are open and I'm ready to, get after it. There are a lot of mornings where I'll wake up and I'm dragging no matter how many hours of sleep I'm getting. So that's where I feel like the quality part of it is super, super important. Being able to play with small stuff like obviously a mattress and blankets is a huge thing, but like, temperature of the room. Like I'm a pool sleeper, so I have to have it a certain temperature in the house. And if I don't, it's going to affect my way of sleep. So I'm kind of in the same boat. I've been trying to figure out small ways, to just make the quality of sleep better, not the hours, but just the quality of it.
It sounds like we could do like an episode of about just talking about sleep.
We could do a 24-hour sleep study and just live stream us sleeping.
Let's do it. I can keep you warm.
Yeah, deal. Oh, I'm a heater, brother. I got you.
Next question. We got a two-parter. First question is, why is CrossFit optimal? And then the second question is, why do you coach?
I mean, optimal wise, I think it just transfers to so many things. I mean, I could kind of the same thing with Savannah when it comes to sleep, but I feel like we could go on for hours about, why CrossFit versus something else. I just think the real life transfer is huge. Whether you're 25 years old, whether you're 75 years old, I think everybody can benefit from it. Not just from a health standpoint. I mean, everybody could use some fitness in their life, but just the everyday living. I mean, we've dived in a lot more into the movement assessment kind of stuff with our coaches and you two and stuff. But I feel like even that, just being able to get yourself up off the floor is a huge deal. The older and the older that you get. And I feel like that CrossFit is probably the best way to, train for that. Like I said, whether you're 25 or whether you're 75, I think the transfer is it's unmatched anywhere else.
Why'd you guys choose CrossFit? So Savannah, why did you decide to open a CrossFit gym? Troy, why did you decide to walk into Complete and become an owner? You know what I mean? Like, what is it about CrossFit that got you guys bought in?
I'll give you a second to think, Savannah, if you want. And that's kind of a big question. For me personally, I mean, there was tons of different reasons. I discovered it when I was a junior in high school at Midwest City. Shout out Savannah. And I fell in love with it just because it was different and it was challenging. I mean, you know how high school athletics are. Like the workouts in there are just, I mean, it's all over the place. And that was the first time I ever felt like there was structure and we actually had gotten something out of the workout whenever one of our baseball coaches who had done CrossFit over at F5 had taken us through it. And I fell in love with hurting and just that pain cave. And then it kind of transferred over after I went to play baseball in college and come back. It turned more into just, I never got bored doing CrossFit. That's kind of one thing that I always tell new people when they come into the gym is we're not doing the same stuff every day. Like you go to a Globo gym, chest and try, back and by, it's leg day, it's cardio day. That gets old after a while, especially when you're repeating the same movements over and over and over again and coming into the gym and being able to be excited because you might not know what's on the menu that day if you didn't look at the workout. And even if you do, it's going to be a different stimulus than you've done the past 4 days. So that's ultimately, I mean, I chose it because I fell in love with, pain and the process aspect of it, but I feel like I stayed because I'm just always excited and entertained to come in and do the workout, to coach the workout. It's different. Something fresh and new every day.
Yeah. How about you, Savannah?
Yeah. For me, I had just got done playing collegiate softball and then professional, and I was done and I'm like, now what? I see so many people that they kind of lose themselves. They quit working out, they lose their bodies, and I'm like at my prime feeling the best I've ever felt. And I'm like, okay, I have all this energy still. I want to do something. Like, what am I going to do? And I remember walking into Zach's gym with Lily. I told Lily, I said, hey, there's this CrossFit thing. We need to go try it out. So we go in for an intro session and we do the baseline workout that most gyms have people do. And it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to do it. And I remember both of us just laying on the floor because we just went to town on it.
Was it Helen?
No, it was 400-meter row, what is it? 400-meter row, Croy, 40 air squats, 30 sit-ups, 20 push-ups, or 20 ring rows and 10 push-ups, something along those lines. And
Chipper, basically.
yeah, and we just like, and you modify it however you need to, but we just went after it. And then we're like barely breathing. Zach kind of gives us like, here it is. And then we're out the door. And I remember calling Lily afterwards, like, oh my God, that was so awesome. And she's on the other end of the line. She's not saying anything. And then I hear this, like she's crying. And I was like, are you crying? Like, are you crying right now? And she's like, I can't talk. And she hangs up because she had gone so hard. And she just was like, it hurt her. It was hurting her. You guys, I feel like, Nick, you haven't seen Lily like really compete in some CrossFit, but she digs in. So we got home and she's like, yeah, we have to do it. And we just fell in love with it. Just, I playing softball at OU, that's a pretty prestigious university as far as like the resources that it provides. We did strength training, 5 a.m.s, all the stuff. And I walked into Zach's gym and I got coached up on so many of my movements that we were doing down there. And I'm like, how can that be that I was just down there with some of the best of the best and I'm coming in here and getting coached up and improving my lifts and things like that. So that's why we fell in love with it in that regards. That's why we opened a gym. And I feel like there's been so many ups and downs, but as we've moved into even a different season of our life, I'm just seeing more and more too. Like Croy said, it's the only like workout, fitness, whatever you want to call it, that just really is like applicable to life. The full diversity of all the movements. I mean, the strength, the conditioning, the agility, the balance, even having to do the complex movements. There's so much to be said, especially older people that walk in. They have to use their mind. Like it's continuing to work your brain to where you're having to tie your muscles into your brain and it's complex stuff. Like that's not by accident. Those things are important as we age as well. So yeah. What about you, Nick? Like why are you in CrossFit? Like, I mean, you're sticking around, like you're retiring. It's a passion for you clearly. Like what's your story?
So I was always in pretty good shape. I fell into I would get like the Muscle and Fitness magazines and whatever free like 8-week training thing I could get. I would copy it out of the magazines, and I did a lot of back and bi and chest and tri days. And I wouldn't necessarily. Sometimes I think I've maybe mischaracterized it and said it was a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time because I do think there's some value in that. I think going into CrossFit, if you've got a decent like weightlifting or like just bodybuilding type background, it does do a lot of good. But I wish I would have known about CrossFit sooner. So the first time I ever got exposed to an Olympic lift was my senior year of high school of track in high school, and I was being recruited by some Division I colleges for it, and so I thought I was the man. And then we had this kid come back. He was like, he was in college, but he was going to be like a physical therapist or something like that. And he came back and augmented our track and field coach staff. And he had us do power cleans one day with 135. He's like, man, this is going to help you get out of the blocks faster. And I was a 100 and 200 meter guy. And so I did like one power clean, and I assume it looked terrible, but I did it. And I've dropped the bar, and I was like, dude, this is a waste of time. So I just left and just started doing dips and like cable crossovers and stuff. Fast forward in 2007, while I was in the Air Force, I failed an Air Force PT test. I mean, I failed that sucker with flying colors. I ran like a 14-minute mile and a half. I weighed 230 pounds. I had almost a 39-inch waist. But prior to that, I was in really good shape. As a recruiter, I ran my own office about 300 miles away from my headquarters. So I was just picking up a lot of bad habits. I was really focused on running a good business and trying to get my foot in the door and making connections with the city and the schools in the area. And I started eating trash, and I was smoking, but I was still going to like Gold's Gym and getting my pump on, but I was just getting thick. Like I just had like this giant sleeve of just like mass, but you couldn't tell where like my forearm ended in like my
I need
bicep.
to see a picture. I need to
So it's funny. So I'll never forget it. One of my sisters, my sister Candy, you'll meet her if you're around for my retirement stuff next week. She hit me up. She's like, "Yeah, I saw a picture of you on." It was MySpace at the time. I saw a picture of you on MySpace, and it didn't look like you. And so I pulled the picture up, and I was like, "Dude, I'm fat. Not only am I failing the Air Force PT test, which is going to affect my career, but now I've got people telling me without telling me directly that I'm overweight." So one of my kids that I was recruiting at the time was in the special operations stuff. He was like, "Hey man, you should try this P90X thing." And I was like, "Dude, if you think I'm going to work out in my living room like a stay-at-home wife, you have lost your mind." But he was like, "Dude, trust me, I'll give you a set of adjustable dumbbells and I'll give you this like pull-up thing in the doorway." And anyway, P90X saved my life. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And then I stumbled upon this workout program that you could probably still find on Google called like the Horseman program. It was a program developed, I think primarily in the SEAL community, but it was kind of passed around for a while. And so I started doing that, and it was CrossFit without calling it CrossFit. It was a lot of Jim Jones stuff, some CrossFit benchmark workouts, but it was CrossFit. It was a ripoff of the CrossFit methodology. Fast forward to me being stationed at Joint Base Charleston in 2011. I had a coworker who was like, "Hey, you should come to CrossFit with me." And I was like, "That's pretty lame, but yeah, I'll go." And my first workout ever at a gym was Fight Gone Bad. And when they were explaining the workout, the movements, I was like, "I'm going to smoke everyone." And I did not. I had no idea how to pace. My movement quality was terrible. But I was fit, but I just didn't know how to really put it into practice yet. But I got like a nosebleed from it, and I had a headache for like a week, and I loved it, but I never actually joined an affiliate until I got my level 1 in 2014. And the level 1, man, that's when I fell in love with. That's when I really bought into it, because I really understood. It's one thing to be a member and come to the gym and say you do CrossFit, but to really understand CrossFit is just a totally different thing. So even like the members that it's not, they may not be able to apply a lot of the things you're going to see in the level 1 training guide, but it's free. And to really have an idea of what the methodology, why Greg Glassman created it, his thought process behind the different components of fitness and stuff like that was just really big for me. But I've been coaching ever since. And I like doing it. It changed my life. And not just like the physical aspect, but I'm positive it makes me a better husband. I mean, you can ask Casey if we're traveling and I don't have a chance to get a workout in. I'm terrible. I'm not as good of a dad. I'm not as good at work. So it's just good for my mental health. But I just like I like coaching because it's been CrossFit's been such an important part of my life. I feel like it would be wrong for me not to try to pass that on to other folks. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but I like it. I like CrossFit. I'm the guy that I rolled my eyes at like a decade ago. I'm not joining CrossFit because those people wear Reebok all the time and all they do is talk about CrossFit. But I don't know how it is for you guys, but sometimes I find it hard to even be friends with people that don't do something like CrossFit or something similar to it. Because I feel like we're just on two different pages. Yeah.
I have a question. It could be a little off topic. I apologize for the music, by the way. But why is that, you think? Why do you think it is so hard for non-CrossFitters to be friends with CrossFitters? And why is it always a back and forth? It seems like, I don't know. It seems like there's not a lot of support when it comes between training regimen. People that do CrossFit, they're not going to be friends with people that do bodybuilding. As a matter of fact, they're going to probably despise each other and talk a whole lot of smack about one another. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Because it's different and people don't like different?
This may sound bad. I'm gonna try to be careful with how I say this. Everybody that I sort of perceive as like a POS just in life doesn't do CrossFit. Now, I'm not saying that just because you do CrossFit that you don't also have the possibility of being a POS, But I'm just saying what I've seen is that people that prioritize their fitness and they prioritize their health and wellness, that they prioritize all the other things in life too. They're not willing to be mediocre in other aspects of their life. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
I think it's tough. I think that CrossFit, there's some gyms that aren't good. And I think it's one of those things that like a couple bad gyms can like muddy the waters at times. And I think that might be part of the reason. It's kind of like, I always make the analogy. I always ask people when they come into the gym, how'd you hear about us? Have you done CrossFit before? Like, do you know what it is? And a lot of times their version of CrossFit is totally based on someone else or the CrossFit games that they see on TV, which is, most of the time not realistic to what it actually is. And so my analogy that I give them is a lot of times like a CrossFit gym is so much community based. It's a lot like being on a team. And that gets tricky sometimes because, you put your kid on a baseball team and that's their first ever experience, but the coach doesn't know what they're doing and is just like drilling them the wrong way, using the wrong cues, doing this stuff. And they're just a terrible coach. Their experience is bad. And that's what they know as CrossFit. So I can see some people seeing that, but the other percent of it, I'm just like, I think they're just scared, honestly. That's my take on it. What about you, Croy?
I think you're right. I think the CrossFit games changed a lot. I think it did. I feel like the number one thing people that don't do CrossFit think whenever they hear the word CrossFit is butterfly pull-ups. Like I don't know why that's such a thing, but they just think, oh, that's the training regimen where they do those weird pull-ups, right? It's like, well, no, that's not all we do. And where did you see those weird pull-ups? 95% of the time it's from the CrossFit games, and like you said, though, I mean, it's different. Just because you're going and working out at Gold's Gym and you do bodybuilding doesn't mean you're going to be stepping on stage and doing a show in 6 months or whatever. This is training. This is practice. And to be frank, you could probably train for 10 years and you won't make the CrossFit games. It's hard. Like you won't be at that level, don't worry. But I think too, just the deeper side of things, I think people are just hesitant to anything that's different. They're so set in their ways and they've probably had success with bodybuilding or whatever, they are following, and to see something that's different where we're telling them like, hey, like this could make you better. Like the world's fittest, especially the CrossFit games, claiming like this is the world's fittest person. I think that throws people for a loop and it almost makes them feel like questioned and what they're doing isn't right. So they immediately just push it to the side. So.
Yeah, I was talking to a neighbor recently. We had like a neighborhood like barbecue or like a food truck night or whatever. And he was asking about CrossFit, and he seemed really hesitant. And I was like, "Listen, man, I get it." The analogy I used with him, it was like a casino analogy. If you've never been in a casino before and you see the craps table and you go up and you just observe the craps table, just the layout of the table, and you listen to the language that they're speaking. And you see like especially if it's like a really live table, it's overwhelming. A lot of people would just rather go to the slot machines, something they can just put a coin in and pull a lever, just do that all night. Totally not realizing that the craps table, if they would just take some time to one, meet some people, get an understanding, because we do have a different language than a lot of the other gyms do. And the vibe is a lot different than the other gyms. You go into Gold's here in Yukon, you may go there for a month and nobody will say a word to you. That's not going to happen at our gym. But if people would just sort of give it a chance and be okay with that, like the new guy feeling for just a couple days or a couple weeks, I think they'll understand that it's a pretty fun experience that they didn't really understand what they were missing out on the whole time.
I think the number of people that have come in and felt a certain way about CrossFit and then have tried it, the number of people that have stayed and loved it versus the number of people that tried it 1 or 2 times and stopped. I mean, I think that's, hugely lopsided. I feel like that's the biggest thing for people is just if you just come into the gym and try a class, or you commit to a week, commit to a month, there's a pretty high chance that you're gonna love it. Maybe not the workouts, they're gonna hurt, but the community, the freshness, how it's different every day, you're gonna most likely find something that you enjoy that makes you stay. You just got to come here, And I feel like the number one, or every single person that says something negative about CrossFit, they haven't tried it. There are very few people I feel like who've actually tried it and have left and have said negative things about it. Even Matt Fraser, like, sure, does he train CrossFit still? No, but he's also never came out and said that he regrets training CrossFit. It's always, it was a positive thing in his life. So
yeah. All right. Next question, Savannah. What is your favorite CrossFit move?
I like the snatch. The snatch or the power clean, it goes back and forth. But I'd probably edge a little more towards the snatch.
What about you, Croy? What's your favorite?
I'll be specific. I'll say squat snatch because Savannah stole mine. Squat snatch or dumbbell snatch. I love dumbbell snatches. Nick?
It's not necessarily, neither of those are like necessarily CrossFit.
Okay, fair.
Well, no. I'm not saying that that's a wrong way. I think that whoever asked the question, it's important for them to understand that none of the movements that we do in CrossFit are really CrossFit. There are some that weren't really a thing, I don't think, before CrossFit, like the thruster, I don't think was a thing before Glassman. Maybe it was. I just don't remember ever seeing it. Wall balls, I don't know if that was really a thing. But anyway, for me, it's running. I think running is probably my favorite one.
You're a runner?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's probably.
I didn't say I was a runner, but I can run if I need to. All right. Next question. If I have poor mobility, should I really go down in weight? What's the problem with adding load and weights?
Croy, you want to take this?
I mean, sure. I think that, one thing that I feel like I've preached and our coaches have preached is you got to earn the right to lift heavy. You got to earn the right to move fast, or, it kind of ties into what we've been talking about. You're probably not going to stay for a while. You're either going to get hurt, you're going to get flustered and frustrated because you're not able to, hit the stimulus of the workout that we preach up front because you might have chosen the wrong weight or the wrong movement. I think that, and then obviously just, health-wise, you don't want to get hurt. I mean, if you do something poorly with more weight and you're not hitting the proper mechanics, it just increases the risk of injury, by tenfold. So I think that, building that foundation is not only better for you health-wise, but it's a lot more impressive to see someone who can back squat 225, ass to grass versus someone who can slap on 345 and squat, a quarter of the way down and stand back up. So,
yeah. Yeah. Ask the question one more time, Nick.
If I have poor mobility, should I really go down in weight? What's the problem with adding load or weights to a movement?
Yeah. I think one is like, what are the mobility issues? Like, if we were to test your mobility, like what is the root cause of your mobility? So depending on what that looks like, most of the time I would say yes, especially if you're not hitting full range of motion with the movement, then your limitations are going to prevent you ultimately really from being able to maximize your strength earnings there. And not just to mention, like, you want to essentially, if you're able to do some mobility like exercises and get back to full range of motion with whatever the issue is, like, that's only going to enhance your joint health down the road. Because as we age and everything, if we have mobility issues now, what is is it going to get better on its own 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now? And we see, as just especially with Western culture, we're used to sitting in chairs all the time and not using like our full range of motion with our knees and our ankles to where we're sitting on the floor like we did with kids. So you can just see our elderly, like that's one of the biggest problems is that they sit in a chair all the time. They start to lose that access of full range of motion with those joints. So if taking off weight means that it gets you more range of motion and more mobility, then I would say 100% all day. It's only a temporary step back. It's like one step backwards will essentially earn you 2 steps forward. So in my eyes, yeah, like, is it your ego that's in the way that is the reason why you're not wanting to go down in weight, or what's the deal? Like everyone, it's funny because most people at the gym, and I'll use my dad as an example because I know that he'd be fine with it. But he's like when we had that mobility day on Thursday and we did that for a month, and he's like, I appreciate the days. He's like, but I don't want it on Thursday. I don't want it Monday through Thursday. Like, put it on Friday. And I'm like, you don't come to the gym on Friday. And he's like, right, but I need the days that I come to the gym to be the days that I really get in here and get after it. And I was like, okay, but are you doing mobility on your own? Because he said, I could do mobility at home. I'm like, okay, are you doing mobility at home? And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, that's exactly why mobility needs to happen at the gym, because for whatever reason, it's one of the least like utilized things, even in our gym. Like, I feel like we could do a much better job with mobility. It just opens doors to so many other things.
Yeah, for the members that don't know, we had a coaches meeting a couple months ago where we talked specifically about scaling and like our coaches development stuff. And with those scaling, there was this is straight from the CrossFit Level 1 training guide. When we scale, we prioritize 2 things. We prioritize mechanics and consistency, and then we prioritize maintaining the stimulus. And when we scale movements, there is a hierarchy of how we do it. So we scale the load first, then we scale the speed second, we scale the volume third, and then we change the movement altogether as the last option. I think a lot of folks think that they cannot reach the intended stimulus of a workout, or they're not going to get a good workout by going with a lighter weight and doing a full range of motion. Man, there's so much more fitness to be gained by doing a scaled Karen, which is 150 wall balls, where you're reaching a full squat and hitting the target, rather than doing an RX weight, not being able to do a full squat. And it just movement patterns get reinforced. Poor movement patterns get reinforced, and it just transfers to all the other movements. So people are like, why am I not getting stronger? Why am I getting hurt? Or why am I not getting athletic or whatever? And are you trying to move well? And I also think sometimes the mobility thing, sometimes people do have a mobility issue, but a good example, like we saw it a couple Saturdays ago, Savannah, when we were going through the progression for overhead squat, and everybody just did an air squat. I don't think there was a single person in the class that had a problem reaching full depth on the squat.
Nope.
But as soon as this 3, 2, 1 go, and you hit that timer, the range of motion for some folks sort of comes into question. So it's tough for us coaches to sometimes, because we want to let people go and get a good workout in, right? But we also want to let them know, like, hey, I see you not doing it the way that I know that you can, but it's kind of a weird balance, right? Because you don't want to just be that person that's like nagging on somebody all the time. But yeah,
I think it also depends on how someone defines a good workout.
Yeah.
You know, what's a good workout to you? Is it when you're laying on the floor afterwards and sucking for air and you have to take your socks and your shoes off? Is it when you leave the gym and you feel accomplished and like you've got a good workout in? Is it a mobility day? You know, there are some people I'm sure who love those mobility days and they left feeling accomplished and like they got better. But like you said, I mean, CrossFit's about being the most well-rounded athlete. It's not about being good at one thing. It's about being great at one thing. It's about being good at a lot of things. And if you're only training, slow and heavy because you're not able to, or at least you don't want to, decrease the weight and hit full range of motion. It's hard to expect to get better at these other aspects of CrossFit that you're not working on. How is your muscle stamina? Have you done like lactate threshold workouts? Have you done the long aerobic ones? We test a ton of different stimuluses. You can't just work on that one where it's slow and heavy all the time.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So the next one, I'm going to have to defer to you guys for this. Have you guys decided where the Hunger Games proceeds, has that been reinvested in the gym yet, or have you decided where that's going to go?
So part of it's been reinvested back into the gym. We put some lights in the building, but there's been the majority of the feedback that we got was people wanted us to put it into a kids area. And so that has been where we've been tossing it back and forth. And I'm kind of I'm at a place where I don't know what to do because the suggestions I've kind of thrown out have been like, no. So I don't know. Like, I'm open to, there wasn't any specifics for what people wanted. Yeah, it was a kids area was the thing that came back the most. And so, yeah, we've kind of moved the gym around to make a more defined, like bigger kid space. So we could start like kind of snowball, like throwing ideas back and forth in terms of like, what would it look like? What could we put here? But yeah, I think that's potentially something that we probably need to revisit and discuss, like, what does that look like? If I was going to throw a suggestion out there, which I'm just, I would love to, because the kids thing is just so hard. I would love to do something that would be new for all the members that we would be able to utilize kind of in a class setting. I'd love to get some more sandbags. We got a few of them from when we got our bike out there, but I'd love to be able to do some different stuff with the sandbags. I think that'd be really beneficial for members and, add something for everyone to be able to use. But yeah, that's a great question. We will be circling back around to that. What are you guys' thoughts? I mean, what are you guys' thoughts?
I'm a supporter of the sandbags. The members, if they've listened this far and they're hearing this, they're probably like, what the hell, sandbags? But that just opens up the aperture so much for workout options. And there's a lot of strength that is to be gained, that you can gain from it without even realizing it. Yeah, some of the gyms I've been to, some of the best gyms that I've been to have a pretty substantial stockpile of sandbags, and they're not in the corner collecting dust and cobwebs. Like they're used pretty frequently.
Yeah, I just think like you want to talk about the ultimate like transfer to what you do in everyday life, like picking up an odd object like that, grip strength, core stability, balance. I mean, picking it up on your shoulder, running with it, throwing it over your head, whatever, bear hugs, lunges, all the things.
Oh yeah, and I think it's my opinion, but I think it's more fun than if you're doing a dumbbell carry or whatever over your shoulder. I think there's a fun aspect that comes. It could be just because it's different and it's a different, tool to use while you're training. But I don't know. I think you're right. I think sandbags offer a lot, and I think that they're just different. So it kind of makes it fun having something fresh and new. Sandbags.
This next one. Who is your favorite Complete West athlete?
Oh my God. Okay.
For me, it's my wife.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's a layup.
Lily.
It's a tie between you two for me.
Yeah.
No comment. No comment.
Let's see. I'm trying to find one that looks good. Yeah, I don't really know what this question. It could have been. I think it's missing a couple things. It says 3 movements to help me bulletproof. I don't know if they're trying to bulletproof a specific area of their body. Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys?
Someone's trying to quote unquote bulletproof for some type of body part, whether it's their shoulders, their hips, their legs. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go into the importance of, we've talked about bodybuilding a little bit, like sure, CrossFit is the optimal training program, but once again, there is some value that comes with bodybuilding and doing some, what would be called considered accessory work, where you're going slow. You're working on smaller muscles to then develop bigger muscles or whatever, kind of the same thing Savannah said. I think that mind-muscle connection also kind of plays a part of it as well. But obviously it's kind of hard depending on the movement. You'd have to know what body part they're wanting to bulletproof to get the answers.
Yeah.
I'd be more specific to that. I mean, off of that, like if you're wanting to bulletproof your shoulders, that Scapjack thing over there that we have on the wall that never gets used or rarely, that thing will bulletproof your shoulders 100%. I mean, no doubt. Other things that you can do to bulletproof your body, do the warm-ups and be intentional with the warm-ups. Like that would 100% help bulletproof your body for sure. I think that there is the effort, not for everyone, but sometimes the effort put into the warm-ups from athletes. And I know it's not, super sexy, but like that's where you're priming your body for sure. So doing the warm-up would be huge. The whole warm-up too. That's part of the class. Like that. I mean, you start burning calories at that point. You want to get a good workout in, like the warm-up is part of the daily workout. So,
we were smoked the other day. We came to the 3:30. Besides it being 1,000 degrees in the gym, Troy had us warming up for like 35 minutes, and I was smoked before the workout started, man.
Yeah. Sleep's another bulletproof one.
Yeah.
For your body, for sure.
Nutrition, for sure. Yeah.
I think another underutilized movement that is good for accessories is, or quote unquote bulletproof, or just carries, building up that core strength. I mean, I think that is it's the center of everything that we do. It's the starting point. I think that carries, whether it's a farmer's carry, whether it's a suitcase carry, I think are huge. I think that, the Turkish get up, as annoying and once again, not sexy as they are, I think that there's a ton of value in stabilization and being able to take your shoulder through that full range of motion. I think there's a lot of value in that as well, as far as bulletproofing shoulders.
All right. So the next question, how could we, or how do we, or how could we find our VO2 max at the gym?
One of the best ways to kind of test your VO2 max, we did this the other day in the coaches meeting, is to do a breath test, to where you inhale as far as you can inhale, and then you slowly blow your breath out. And once your last breath has been blown out, you clamp your nose, you start your clock, and you watch it. When you get the first urge to want to breathe, like not once you breathe, but when you get that first urge to where your chest kind of moves or your throat constricts, that's your time. A gold standard for that is 40 seconds. We had our coaches do it, and I don't think we had anyone hit 40 seconds, did we? No. What'd you get, Nick?
I think like 19 seconds. To be fair, I really wanted to breathe after like a second. You know what I mean? Like it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to fully let all your air out and then hold it. But yeah.
Do you know any ways, Nick? Any good ways to test VO2?
Yeah, I mean, so to get like a true VO2 max, you're going to have to do that in a lab somewhere where you're hooked up to a machine and you've got some exercise physio folks there that are running you through the full battery of tests. Typically, it's going to start at a low intensity. It's going to build an intensity, and you're going to reach a point where your threshold is, and they'll be able to determine your VO2 max. There's some like rudimentary ways to do it. I don't know how accurate they are. I would have to, I guess, get online to see somebody that's actually had theirs done in lab and done one of these tests to see how close it is. But one is the 20-meter beep test. It's an old school. I think they might have done it back in like elementary school back in the day. But you've got two cones set up 20 meters apart, and it starts with a beep. And before the next beep hits, you've got to make it to the 20-meter mark. And then when the next beep hits, you got to go back. And over the course of this test, the beeps get gradually closer together and closer together. And eventually, you'll get to a point where you're not able to make it from one cone to the next before the next beep. And there is a chart that'll correlate that to your VO2 max. I don't know how reliable it is, but it's one way we could do it. At the first affiliate that I coached at, this was something that I had the members do a couple times. Not for the VO2 max aspect, but honestly, I think it's a really good test. The other one, I think probably the more commonly known one, I think it's a 12-minute run for distance. It's got to be on flat ground. It's got a name of like a person. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe like maybe the Cooper test. I think it's what it's called, the Cooper test. 12 minutes for distance. I've never done that one. I've done an 8-minute for distance at a competition before. And I thought that maybe they were trying to do the Cooper test without realizing it. But that's one. Another one, Concept 2 has like a VO2 max chart, I think, on their website. And one of the things that they do is there's a rower VO2 max test. I think it's a 2K row for time. You put your time in on the chart. It's you put your body weight and things like that, and it'll give you a VO2 max estimate. But again, it would be interesting. That would honestly be really interesting to do it at the gym. Maybe do those 3 tests. Keep track of everybody's VO2 on each test and see is it close? Was one way off? I don't know. I can't think of any other ones, but really to get like a true VO2, I think you've got to be hooked up with a mask on, going through usually a bike or a run, I think.
And for those out there that don't know much about VO2, Nick, do you want to touch on why VO2 is important?
Well, I don't know. So that's interesting. I don't know if VO2 is important, I think, in just general health and wellness. I think from what I remember, poor VO2 max can be you're at a higher risk of like heart disease, I think. As far as how it correlates to CrossFit or how it correlates to like your athletic ability, I don't think that VO2 max alone is a really good test. I think people are always constantly in a searching for some type of a metric to see where they stand amongst their peers or other competitors. And a VO2 max is a good one, I guess. I think VO2 max without like knowing what your heart rate is and things like that, I don't think the VO2 max alone is a really good test. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are.
Yeah, I think if you're looking just for a holistic picture, it's just a piece of the pie for sure. Like what you said, if you're just trying to judge your health based off VO2, like maybe not. Like how it's going to be specific on like what your exercise is that you're doing. But if you want to know, like, is what I'm eating, is my nutrition, is my sleep, is my exercise, is it like, am I in the ballpark of where I should be heading? And you're trying to test a holistic picture, then I think a VO2 is a great testing piece for that, for sure. But it's only a piece of the pie, in my opinion.
Yeah, when there's a website or an Instagram page called WOD Science, and I remember over the past couple of years they did a test of elite CrossFit athletes in the VO2 max, and in their study they found that elite CrossFitters don't have a high VO2 max. They just don't. For VO2 max improvements, there's obviously different protocols that you can go through in order to improve that. Some people are proponents of just long zone 2 training, long low intensity aerobic stuff, and that definitely has its place in CrossFit, the sport, and CrossFit gyms. But you usually aren't going to see that. Imagine what how our members would react, let alone if we ever programmed a 5K, which is the most programmed workout on CrossFit.com. If we programmed 45 minutes of running for distance, people would lose their minds. And to be honest, I don't blame them. It may not be that fun of a workout, but I don't know if VO2 max is that important for CrossFit. And I also don't know with that, when they correlate the VO2 max and heart disease, I don't know how comprehensive of a comparison that is. Did they just notice that people with heart disease have poor VO2 maxes, which in turn made them say that if you have a poor VO2 max, you're at a higher risk of heart disease without some other contributing factors? I don't know. We're not peer reviewing anybody's studies. You know what I mean? But yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what your VO2 max is? Did you ever have it tested? Because I don't know. I have no idea what mine is.
I haven't had it officially tested. I've only done holding the breath just to kind of test that and see where I am with lung capacity and whatnot. But no, I'd love to. I would love to experiment and get into all the science of things and data track. I'd love to do a bunch of this stuff with the members and just kind of really start to accumulate data and see what we can find and how things progress. And, I think that'd be really fun too. The more people can get to know their bodies, man, that's powerful.
But before we get off the VO2 max things, so when we talk about performance in the gym, can you explain why somebody with a higher VO2 max may be outperformed regularly by somebody with a lower VO2 max? Or do you have any theories on why that would happen?
Yeah. I mean, if they're not what's their muscle stamina like? Do they have a good muscle foundation? Are they able to move those loads? What kind of workout are they doing? More strength based or VO2, I think about running, swimming, biking, things like that. So that's still just a singular focus. So you throw something like weights into the picture. I mean, that can definitely, if they're someone whose VO2 is more of a specialized athlete, CrossFit in general is about, the jack of all trades, the non-specialist. So most workouts probably wouldn't be in their favor if that's the only category that they're high in.
Yeah, I think some people may not be familiar with Hyrox, but Hyrox is kind of a newer fitness trend that's come out primarily in Europe, but it's sort of starting to grow in the US. But it's very heavy endurance based. Every Hyrox event is you end up doing 8K of running, but every 1,000 meters you're doing some type of a CrossFit style thing, whether it's a sled push or wall balls or something like that. Those athletes are going to have a much higher VO2 max than CrossFit athletes are. But when we talk about if we were going to do just a straight CrossFit workout, just movement quality is going to be such a huge determining factor. And I think that sometimes people forget that. We talked about it earlier last week when we did Fran. If you look at the leaderboard, the people that did the best were the people that generally have probably the best movement quality in the gym. They may not be the strongest, but they generally do move well.
Efficiency is huge.
Yeah. Let's do 2 more questions. We might go over. That's okay. Just 2 more questions.
Okay.
So this one, how effective is the 20-minute watt test on the bike erg for measuring fitness level? And does age matter?
Does age matter with that specific test, or does age matter in general, when it comes to CrossFit? I assume they're asking if it was within that specific test, right?
That's how I would take it, yeah.
I mean, I think it's in the same vein as kind of what we're talking about right now. I mean, I don't know if I'm 100% familiar with the 20-minute watt test. Is that just trying to hold a specific number of watts for 20 minutes?
Yeah, so the 20-minute watt test on the bike erg is a way to estimate your functional threshold power on the bike. So rather than doing in your functional threshold power would be the power that you should be able to sustain for like an hour effort on the bike. So you would do 20 minutes, whatever your average wattage is at the end of that 20 minutes. You would multiply that by like 90 to 95%, and then that would give you what wattage you should be able to maintain for an hour. I'm surprised. I don't know who. I've done that test before, so I know about it, but I don't know who. I've never seen anybody else in the gym do it, so that's just weird that somebody wrote this question in there. I've had some people do it, but I don't think I've ever told them that it was a 20-minute bike or watt test. So yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing of it being like an actual legit test, but I think it's in the same vein as what we've been talking about, where, you can't really put all your eggs in one basket and say that's the determining factor of your level of fitness. I mean, sure, it's important, but like Savannah said, it's just a piece of the puzzle.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we look at the methodology, right? So the CrossFit prescription is constantly varied high intensity functional movement. And how does CrossFit define fitness? It's increased work capacity across broad times and modal domains. So increased work capacity being able to do real work, broad times, whether it's 30 seconds or 30 minutes, and modal domains being all different types of effort. So I think the 20-minute watt test is a good test if you're trying to improve your power output on a bike, but you could be really, really good on the bike. But as far as how CrossFit defines fitness and being able to perform well in all different types of known and unknowable events, the 20-minute watt test may not be a good gauge of fitness if we're going to use the CrossFit methodology as like the baseline.
Yeah, I think it depends. Yeah, I think that's important, knowing like, hey, what are your goals? If your goal is to be an aerobic power kind of athlete that can sustain that for a long amount of time, then amazing. But like you said, it's different.
Yeah.
Broad brush.
You said, what'd you say? Broad brush?
I said it's a broad brush, like you said. I mean, just, yeah.
I thought you said frog brush. Sorry. All right. Last question, unless you guys end up wanting to keep going.
One more.
I'm going to look for different font. Okay, here's a good one. Why don't we do more community events?
Like more than we've been doing, like once a month, or I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's on the card, man.
Sure. I personally feel like we do a good amount of community events.
Yeah,
we put on some killer ones the last few months. Not everybody can make them at all times. But I'd say too, that's one thing that is tricky, is being able to make it work for everyone. I know that's important for Savannah. It's important for me, and Abigail's been awesome about scheduling events. But I mean, the biggest thing is we try our hardest to make it work for the most amount of people, and not everybody's able to show up or make it to that event. But I do feel like we've had a good number of events that people are able to come to if they're not able to make a different one. We've got a dodgeball event, snow cone event coming up. You've got your retirement thing on Friday before dodgeball. We had pickleball. Savannah, what do you think?
I guess my question back would be like, what are you defining as a community event? Because when I go back, I'm like, Croy and I plan out the calendar year, and I mean, we have stuff going on almost every month. So it's like we open up the gym to do like those, what are they? What WODs are they? Like the male pair. Yeah, we have the duels that we ran 3 times. We put on, of course, the Hunger Games. That's a huge community event that lasts for 3 weeks. It will really last longer than 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We have 12 Days of Christmas, which are different like community events. We do the 12 days. Like, to me, those are still, because you're engaging the community, you're having stuff. We did the trunk or treat thing for Halloween. We do bring a friend weeks. Of course, we have Murph in the summer. Yeah. So I'm like, what?
We have
Tell,
Saturdays.
tell me. I'm always supportive of if there's more stuff that people want to run, like I feel like Croy and it takes for the events that we run, it takes a lot of time and energy that goes into it. But yeah, I mean, if more people want community events, like tell us.
Yeah,
Tell us what you're thinking.
I've been to a gym before that didn't really do any community events. So I don't know if the person that wrote this, maybe their only exposure is Complete West. So maybe they're basing this off of, again, I've only been here for 2 years, so I don't know if there was more community events in the past or if we're doing more now. I think we're doing a pretty good amount. But whoever you are, I would say, like, if you got an idea, let Savannah and Croy know about it. But hey, don't just come with the idea. Be okay with doing the work for it.
Mhm.
You know, set it up.
Yeah.
We could do more. It would be much easier to do more. And I think if more people express a desire to want to do more, I don't know. That was honest. That honestly kind of leads into one of the questions I was going to ask you, ask you guys. But is it difficult for you guys to sort of navigate the fact that you've got just different member personalities, and like some people are really eager to want to be involved in the gym community. Some people just want to show up, get a workout in, and bounce, and that's fine too. But you guys have a membership base of well over 100, but you got well over 100 different opinions on every single thing that you do. So like, how do you guys navigate that? And was that a surprise? Was that surprising for you once you became an owner?
Yeah, I think that you don't ever really know what to expect when you own a business and how to navigate different personalities, and nobody can really tell you until you're in it and you're doing it. And so I feel very fortunate that our member base has always been really awesome. I mean, we've had there's been some challenges and stuff along the way, but that's just life in general. Like, there's always going to be difference of opinions. There's always going to be something going on one way or another. But yeah, I feel like for the most part, it's been really awesome. We have a really good member base. I mean, I have a soft spot and a passion for everyone, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It has made me a better person, for sure. I feel very grateful and honored to be able to take on those challenges, because I feel like it just opens me up more and enhances my life and being better.
Yeah, it's not lip service. I mean, for me as a coach and a member of the gym, one of the things I appreciate the most about both of you is your willingness to listen to feedback, whether it's constructive or not. I don't know if people know that, but my experience the entire time that I've been at the gym, and I've probably provided you guys more feedback that's not always like positive feedback, but it's feedback. I've probably given you guys that more than anybody else. And I've never been met with, dude, I don't have time for it, or like, I don't care about it, or anything like that. So I hope people understand that it's, especially if they've never been in a leadership role, either in their occupation or as like a business owner, that it's tough to deal with a bunch of different personalities that have a bunch of different opinions on how things should go. And giving you guys some grace, but also being willing to like have conversations with you. Don't talk about it with your friends. Don't bitch about stuff in private. Like, if there's something genuinely that you're concerned about or something that you want to see change, I'm 100. I know, because I've seen it, that you guys want to hear it.
100%. Yeah, to me, it's the only way we get better. Like, Croy and I can't be in every aspect of the gym at every second of the day. And we only know what our perspectives are. But I value it. I value the constructive feedback. There's been times to where I'm like, oh, it kind of like makes you sick to your stomach a little bit. as time has gone on, I'm like, I just want to know. I'd rather know as soon as it happens or whatever it is. Like the faster that I can know, the faster that we can take action on it. It's when stuff stews forever. And then by the time Croy and I find out about it, it's like this massive deal. And I'm like, God, just tell me. Like, just tell me. I want to know because I know, especially, Croy, you can speak for yourself too, but I feel like we've just had so many conversations about it. We just want the gym to be the best for everyone. Like, those are our truest intentions.
Yeah.
Is we want it to continue to evolve and we want it to be great for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the balance. And I think that part of it too, like when it comes to balancing personalities and, accepting feedback and criticism, obviously a lot of patience comes with it. But I think that, a big part of it is just realizing that we all have the same goal, whether the feedback is negative, whether it's positive, the reason feedback is being given is because we all want the gym to be good and we all care for the gym. And it'd be different if something was happening that was negative and was bringing the gym down and it wasn't talked about or mentioned. I feel like because I haven't always been the best about receiving, constructive criticism. And I feel like that's one thing I've gotten better about is just realizing that, hey, it's because that people care about the gym. If they weren't speaking up about things or ways to make it better, then, they probably don't care enough about it to speak up. So I think that's a big part of it is just realizing that that's all of our goal here is to just make the gym a great place. And is it hard to make it the best for everybody? Sure. But that is what Savannah and I try our hardest to do.
Yeah. It's tricky at times too, because like, the gym is like its own living thing. And it, like, as the community evolves and adapts and changes, they're going through different seasons of life. And I think that's been one of the biggest learning things as a business owner, especially for me, is like that the gym has to grow with our community too. And so we have to get out of our own way sometimes of thinking, well, that's how it's worked in the past and that's how we've always done it. We have to constantly like let go of how things were and be like, that's not where the gym's at anymore. So it's like a constantly evolving, it's like a baby that never grows up. This is the best way that I can put it. But it's great. It's a great challenge.
Cool. There was more questions. Maybe we'll save them. Maybe we'll just burn them all and try a Q&A again sometime in the future. Do you guys have any last parting shots before we end it?
Whoever put the thing about the community events, like, I want you to come talk to me and tell me like what more community events like you desire or have in mind. Like, I want to know more about that. For sure.
Yeah. Thank you for setting this up, Nick.
Well, dude,
this is Nick's brainchild, if you guys were wondering.
Well, it'd be interesting once we get this. So the Q&A. This was fun. I think it'd be cool. Maybe in next time, maybe we'll get some different some additional interesting questions. I'm curious to see what the response will be in the future ones that we do, maybe that are more targeted on specific things. And so, like, if people watch this and they have some things that they would like us to talk about, specific topics that they want us to sort of process through and just dialogue through. I don't know if the comments on YouTube is going to be the best option. I think the plan is to take this link and share it on Facebook. So maybe put it in the comments on Facebook. Yeah, but I think the plan is to keep the video just within our community. So don't go sharing it on like on like your greater Facebook page. You know what I mean? So just leave it on the gym Facebook page. By the way, dude, your mic'd up video, I was dying. That was
like it.
This is so good. Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Noelle sent it to me before she posted it a few hours ago and asked for my approval, and I was laughing. It's pretty good. I don't think anybody likes watching or listening to themselves talk on video, but I
haven't seen it.
Dude, you're gonna die. It's like 4 minutes. It's great.
I think it's 4 minutes long.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. If you made it this far, thanks.